Got another good video for you guys. Today I'm going to be hopping into each team's MVP for this 2021 season. So pretty simple concept here. Now let's hop right into the video. Starting off with the Arizona Diamondbacks, I'm going with Ketel Marte. The Diamondbacks had an awful season, but Marte was their one bright spot. While he did only play in 90 games, in those 90 games, he hit .318 with 14 home runs. He drove in 50 with a .909 OPS. So really not too many options here, but Marte most definitely did have a good season while he was healthy and on the field. Next up, we have the Atlanta Braves, and I'm going to be going with Austin Riley. Riley put together a career season in which he played in 160 games, hit .303 with 33 home runs, 107 driven in, an .898 OPS, and a 6.1 WAR. Riley was a key piece to the Braves' success this season, and he came up big in the postseason. Moving over to the Baltimore Orioles, we have Cedric Mullins. Mullins was one of the best players in all of baseball this year as he played in 159 games, hit .291, had 30 home runs and 30 stolen bases to go along with an .878 OPS and a 5.7 WAR. It was an extremely surprising season for Mullins as he had never replicated anything close to this prior to this season. Moving over to the Boston Red Sox, we have Rafael Devers. Devers played in 156 games in which he hit .279, had 38 bombs, 113 driven in, and an .890 OPS. He's been one of the better hitters in the Red Sox lineups for the past couple years, and this year was no different. Moving over to the Chicago White Sox, we have Liam Hendriks. This was a very tough one to pick as I was jockeying between Hendriks, Lance Lynn, Carlos Rodon, Jose Abreu, but I ultimately went with Hendriks as this year he pitched to a 2.54 ERA and had 113 punchouts in 71 innings to go along with 38 saves. He is as reliable as it gets in the closer position, and he was a huge part to Chicago's success this season. Moving over to the Chicago Cubs, I have Frank Schwindl. Schwindl was a surprise this year as in 64 games he hit .326 with 14 bombs, drove in 43 to go along with a .926 OPS. The Cubs were a really bad team this year, but Frank Schwindl was one of the bright spots. Really, he had a great season, and it looks like he's going to be heading into 2022 as the Chicago Cubs starting first baseman. Getting on to the Cincinnati Reds, we have Nicholas Castellanos. In 138 games, Castellanos hit .309 with 34 bombs, 100 driven in, and a .939 OPS. He had a monster season in which he found himself in the heart of the National League MVP discussion throughout the season. Castellanos is primed for another big season in 2022 as he is in the prime of his career. Moving on to the Cleveland Indians, we have Jose Ramirez. In 152 games, Ramirez hit .266 where he had 36 home runs, 103 driven in, 27 stolen bases, an .893 OPS, and a 6.7 WAR. This guy really does it all, and he is one of the more underrated superstars you are going to see in baseball today. Getting onto the Colorado Rockies, we have CJ Cron. Cron paid big dividends for the Rockies as this year in 142 games he hit .281 where he had 28 home runs, 92 driven in, and a .905 OPS. He was one of the better hitters in Colorado's offense, and he most definitely benefited from the altitude of Coors Field. Moving on to the Detroit Tigers, we have Robbie Grossman. Grossman put together a career year as he played in 156 games where he hit .239, but he had 23 home runs and 20 stolen bases. Not really much options here with the Tigers, but that takes nothing away from the great season that Robbie Grossman put together. Moving on to the Houston Astros, I have Carlos Correa. Correa played in 148 games where he hit .279, had 26 bombs, drove in 92 to go along with an .850 OPS and a 7.3 WAR. He was one of the better shortstops in baseball all season long, and he really had a huge season heading into free agency, which will definitely pay him big bucks. Not to mention, this guy is one of the more clutch hitters you're going to see in baseball today. Next up, we have the Kansas City Royals, where I am going with Salvador Perez. Perez played in all but one game this year where he hit .273 with 48 bombs, 121 driven in, an .859 OPS, and a 5.3 WAR. Perez put together a huge season, really one of the better seasons we have seen from a catcher in recent memory. No catcher has ever hit as many home runs as Perez did this year as he broke the single season record. Moving on to the Los Angeles Angels, I have Shohei Ohtani. This one's about as easy as it gets, as Ohtani played in 155 games where he hit 257 and had 46 home runs and 26 stolen bases with a 965 OPS. And he also pitches at an elite level, as he pitched in 130 innings where he had a 3.18 ERA, punched out 156 batters, and had a 9 WAR. He is the MVP of the Angels, and in my opinion, he is the clear-cut MVP of the American League. Moving on to the Dodgers, I have Walker Buehler. Buehler pitched in 207 2/3 innings this year where he had a 16-4 record, a 2.47 ERA, 212 punch-outs, and a 6.7 WAR. I could have picked guys like Trey Turner and Max Scherzer, but I ultimately decided to go with Buehler, as he was with the Dodgers all season long and he is really a legitimate Cy Young candidate. Moving on to the Marlins, I have Sandy Alcantara. Alcantara pitched in 205 innings this year where he went 9-15 with a 3.19 ERA and 201 punch-outs. He is really an extremely underrated pitcher that had a sensational season and was the anchor of the Marlins rotation along with Trevor Rogers. Moving on to the Milwaukee Brewers, I have Corbin Burnes. Burnes is most likely going to win the National League Cy Young this year, as he pitched in 167 innings where he had a 2.43 ERA, punched out 234 batters, and had a 5.7 WAR. And if the numbers aren't good enough, this guy has some of the filthiest stuff in baseball. If you just watch this guy pitch, you know the dominance that this guy displays every time he heads out to the mound. This dude was just a lot of fun to watch this year, and he is the clear-cut MVP of the Brewers. Moving on to the Minnesota Twins, I have Jorge Polanco. Polanco was really one of the only good players on the Twins this year, as he hit 269 with 33 home runs, 98 driven in. He had 11 stolen bases and an 826 OPS and a 4.8 WAR. Polanco has shown flashes of being a very good baseball player, and this year he showed it all. Polanco, in my eyes, clearly the best Twins player this year. Moving on to the New York Mets, I have Jacob deGrom. Might be a little bit of a hot take here, as deGrom only pitched in 92 innings this year, but in those 92 innings, he was as good as we have ever seen him. In those 92 innings, deGrom went 7-2 with a 1.08 ERA, 146 punchouts, and a .54 WHIP. Those are video game numbers that you don't see in Major League Baseball really at all. So although he was out half the season, he was that good. I think he is still the MVP of the Mets. Moving on to the New York Yankees, I have Aaron Judge. Judge had a great season, as he played in 148 games where he hit 287 with 39 home runs, 98 driven in, a 916 OPS, and a 5.9 WAR. Ever since making his debut a few years back, Judge has really been one of the better two-way players in the game. He has arguably the best raw power in baseball to go along with some of the best defense over in right field. He was a fixture in the middle of the lineup all year long, and he is definitely the MVP for the Yankees. Moving on to the Oakland A's, I'm going to go with Matt Olson. All in all, Olsen played in 156 games where he hit 271 with 39 home runs, 111 RBIs, and a 911 OPS. And similar to Aaron Judge, this guy has some of the best raw power in baseball to go along with Gold Glove defense. He is an extremely underrated hitter, and he is really one of the better players in the game. Moving over to the Philadelphia Phillies, I'm going to be going with Bryce Harper. Let alone being the Phillies MVP, this guy is probably going to win the National League MVP. This year, in 141 games, he hit .309 with 35 home runs, 84 driven in, 13 stolen bases, and a league-leading 1044 OPS. And he is a very solid defender over there in right field, and he nearly carried the Phillies to the postseason. Next up, we have the Pittsburgh Pirates, and I'm going with Bryan Reynolds. Reynolds played in 159 games where he hit .302 with 24 home runs, 90 driven in, and a 912 OPS. Reynolds was clearly the best player on a very bad baseball team in the Pittsburgh Pirates, and without him, they probably would have been a lot worse. Reynolds is a great baseball player and was most definitely the best player on the Pittsburgh Pirates this season. Moving on to the San Diego Padres, I have Fernando Tatis Jr. Tatis only played in 130 games, but in those 130 games, he made a huge impact. He hit .282 with 42 bombs, 97 driven in, 25 stolen bases, a 975 OPS, and a 6.5 WAR. Tatis is really one of the more exciting and talented players in the game today, and he is still only 22 years old. Next up, we have the San Francisco Giants, and I'm going with Kevin Gausman. Gausman pitched in 192 innings where he went 14-6 with a 2.81 ERA, 227 strikeouts, and a 5.3 WAR. Gausman was in the Cy Young for most of the season, and he really dominated from start to finish. He is a big reason why the Giants finished with 107 wins this year, and going forward, he's going to be a fixture in this rotation. Next up, we have the Seattle Mariners, and I'm going with Mitch Haniger. You would have never noticed that Haniger missed all of 2020 with the way this guy played this season. In 157 games, he hit .252 with 39 bombs, 100 driven in, and an .804 OPS. He was consistently one of the better hitters in the Mariners lineup along with Kyle Seager, and was a huge reason why Seattle was really the most surprising team in baseball outside of the Giants, and really was a big reason why they almost made the postseason. Next up, we have the St. Louis Cardinals, and I'm going with Adam Wainwright. Wainwright is 40 years of age, and no one would have ever seen this coming from him. He pitched in 206 innings where he went 17-7 with a 3.05 ERA and 174 punchouts. He played a big role in the Cardinals' success this season and was a big reason why the Cardinals rattled off 17 straight wins and made the National League wildcard game. Next up, we have the Tampa Bay Rays, and I'm going to be going with Brandon Lowe. Lowe played in 149 games where he hit .247 with 39 home runs, 99 driven in, 7 stolen bases, and an .863 OPS. Lowe does have his strikeout issues, but you can't deny that this guy is one of the more important hitters in Tampa Bay's lineup. Moving on to the Texas Rangers, I'm going to be going with Adolis Garcia. Garcia played in 149 games where he hit .243 with 31 home runs, 90 driven in, and 16 stolen bases. Now, Garcia did fall off a bit at the end of the season, and Texas is not a very talented team, but Garcia definitely stood out on that roster and had a great year. Moving on to the Toronto Blue Jays, I'm going to be going with Vladimir Guerrero Jr. Guerrero played in all but one game this year where he hit .311, had 48 home runs, 111 driven in, a 10.02 OPS, and a 6.8 WAR. He was one of the best players in baseball this year and lived up to all the hype and then some. And he is still only 22 years old, so really this is only the beginning for Vlad. Getting on to the Washington Nationals, we have Juan Soto. Soto, similar to Guerrero, is one of the best young hitters in the game. All in all, Soto played in 151 games where he hit .313, 29 home runs, 95 driven in, a 999 OPS, and a 7.0 WAR. Soto, in my eyes, is undoubtedly the best pure hitter we're going to see in baseball today. He is probably the most patient and smart hitter in the game, and he is still only 23 years old. So there you have it, my MVP for all 30 teams in 2021. Be sure to let me know what you guys think down below, whether you agree or where you disagree. As always, if you guys do enjoy the content, feel free to subscribe. I'm going to continue to post plenty of baseball videos here as we move into the off season. And lastly, I want to thank you guys again so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.